today.
And now a classic hit. Monday.
No!
Monday.
Oh, I'm throwing you out the window! Hate Monday mornings? Consider a career change. Employment Solutions works to match you to the right job. Employment Solutions makes Monday better, and Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Apply online. EmploymentSolutionsLLC.com.
The skies are looking cloudy today. We have a high temperature of 58 and a low of 38. It looks like we have a chance of scattered showers tomorrow, along with a high of 59 and a low of 43. Showers are in the forecast for Wednesday as well. We expect a high of 50 and a low of 40. Winter will officially begin on Thursday, but we're expecting a fairly comfortable day out with partly cloudy skies, a high of 57 and a low of 40. Grab an umbrella on your way out the door Friday because scattered showers are back in the forecast. We expect a high temperature of 57 and a low of 41. This is Mason Self for the news, 103.9 Live Wire Weather Center. Count on it.
In Irwin, it's cloudy and 51. In Greenville, we have scattered showers and it's 47. In Johnson City, it's cloudy and 48.
Me. Take a guess, who's the master of holiday giving? Me. Because he went to Jared and gave her the unforgettable gift of Pandora, like the exclusive Pandora Winter Charm gift set, featuring 12 charms and clips, including Jared exclusives, all in a commemorative keepsake box with savings up to $260. A holiday gift that completely crushes it. That's why he went to Jared. While supplies last. See store for details.
Welcome back to Tri-City Sports Now. I am Marky Bilson. Love to hear from you what your thoughts are on the Randy Sanders hire, but I know we're going to be talking, just what everybody is talking about the NFL, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, even on a local show, some of the things that went on. After all, Cody Sensabaugh plays for the Steelers. Let's face facts. From Kingsport. The Tennessee Titans may be, and I hesitated calling them a local team at times because they play 300 miles away. I don't like the calls for Mike Mularkey's head, but I know why they're there. I know exactly why they're there, and I can't, really defend him that much. I was talking, though, about Colin Kaepernick. Would he be the starting quarterback of the Panthers? No. Will he buy in with P. Diddy to the Panthers? No. And the horrible thing about that is that if P. Diddy were to put forth a ownership group, I think it might actually gain some traction because, the NFL wants to bring in minority ownership. I think it would be a disaster, though. The one thing that I did think about Jerry Richardson when the team was up for sale, I don't really think the Panthers are going to move. Don't get me that. But whenever a team goes up for sale, you got to just have that in the back of your mind, especially when it is a smaller market, especially when we're talking about, moving to London. That sort of thing. A guy could come in and say, I'll tell you how it could be practical. You need a franchise? Okay, let me buy the Panthers. Panthers can get by. Charlotte can get by with Atlanta. Sure, they did all that time. Daniel Snyder once, infringed on what his market was years ago when we allowed the Ravens to move to Baltimore. That would open that back up again for them. It could be fight for old Dixie and not old DC anymore. Some people will get that reference from historic Tale to the Redskins and all this, but still, I don't know. It sounds to me, some of the people, the NFL has a very strict club on who they allow as an owner or not. Donald Trump, I wonder if Donald Trump would be the president right now if he was allowed to own the Buffalo Bills. Maybe. I wonder if he would be the president right now if he was allowed. He was very interested in buying them. Rush Limbaugh once wanted to buy into the Rams, and although Howard Balzer has told me on this show that, it was always going to be Stan Kroenke who was going to own that team. He basically had inherited it from, I say inherited, he was the major beneficiary of Georgia Frontiere, passing away, and he was a shareholder in the team, had a minority interest. It was much easier for him to get majority interest since he was already involved in the ownership of the team than it would be for an outside group. I will tell you, I don't think it's right, and I know it's two different sports, so it is two different entities. I don't think it's right that a Rush Limbaugh cannot be allowed to own the St. Louis Rams. However, a Bill Maher can be allowed to be part of an ownership group of a New York Mets. I mean, their politics, one way or the other, it's like you're, prejudicial against conservatives or something. I mean, I have heard, Bill Maher go on HBO and blame all of the racist tendencies in our society to Jesus. And I think that is tremendously offensive. More so than anything that Rush Limbaugh has ever said. And the idea that a drug-addicted lowlife like Jim Irsay could actually get credibility speaking out against anyone this side of Charles Manson is, I think, what's wrong with NFL ownership. Put it that way. Anyhow, and I know, and it's really hard to see it when then you deny that group, or that group falls apart, which would have kept the Rams in St. Louis, and instead Kroenke, a native St. Louisan, by the way, then says, there's more money to be had in Los Angeles. Then again, Walter O'Malley was from Brooklyn. So, we see the same thing. Got to talk a little bit. I'll tell you the one call that I thought was egregious. Okay, Juju Smith-Schuster, the catch, was it not a catch? Actually, that was they threw to on the interception for the Steelers. The catch by Jesse James. You want to know what actually I took from that Patriots-Steelers game? You want to know what I took? The tight ends for both teams. Okay, I got to go back to the Western PA roots here now. I got to do that here and brag upon. And it gets to be this thing where I tell you, I used to cover Mike Mularkey with the Steelers, Deshae Townsend. I like those guys. I don't want to see them get fired. I know it's the nature of the beast. Coaches are hired to get fired, especially in the NFL. So, I'm having a difficult time really defending the job he did, but all I am saying is as a person, and this does not speak as a journalist, but as a person, I like Mularkey. I like Townsend. And if that counts for anything to keep them for their jobs, so be it. As a member of the Tennessee media, I'm willing to go on and say that. Now, let's talk a little bit about what's going on here. The other thing that I was going to say with the pride for me, as I got sidetracked there, Jesse James, Rob Gronkowski, tight ends in that Steelers-Patriots game. Gronkowski from Woodland Hills High School, suburban Pittsburgh, from really right down the street. Woodland Hills is right next to Glassport, which is where South Allegheny plays. And that's where Jesse James, who was the player who caught the ball and he crossed the plane, but it wasn't a touchdown. It was just like I said to my friends years ago about the Tuck rule. A good interpretation of a bad rule. Boy, the Patriots really they are really coming and benefiting over the years from bad interpretation or good interpretations of bad rules. I can even remember the snowplow in '82. They were allowed to do that back then. Good interpretation of bad rules. It was a bad rule to allow the snowplow in a Ron Meyer, who recently just passed away, by the way, to put the snowplow on the game for John Smith to kick the only field goal in the 3-0 victory. Okay, look it up. I remember watching that game as a kid. First half was played in 55 minutes. Snowbound, all they did was hand the ball off. Next year, the Dolphins got Marino, and everything was changed. Anyway, but I just, I look at that with the one call, and like I said, I agree totally with what Tony Dungy said. good interpretation of a bad rule. I think it'll probably be changed. I mean, I don't understand quite. I know it's in the book, but 1 minute, if I'm a running back and I reach over on a rushing attempt in that situation, or reaching over a pile, it's a touchdown. If I'm a receiver and it's a passing play, it's not. That's what the rules say. Doesn't necessarily make that much sense, but I can't really be that critical because it's a good interpretation of a bad rule. And I'm sure it'll be, seeing this, Des Bryant, Calvin Johnson, probably see, some sort of change, I would imagine, in the future, competition committee, et cetera, et cetera. What I thought was the more egregious call was the first down late in the Cowboys-Raiders game that allowed the Dallas Cowboys to get a first down and eventually, after converting a 4th and 1, and eventually kicking the game-winning field goal late in the game, although still enough time for the Raiders to come back, but they didn't do it. To me, that was the more egregious call, because I don't think you got the first down. If you can put an index card between the football and the marker, it's not a first down. You're an index card short of the first down. Yes, a centimeter is as big in that situation as a foot as is a yard. You're short. Reminded me a little bit, I don't know how many of you remember this, but the bowl game about, 4 years ago? When Jadeveon Clowney dislodged the ball and the helmet of the Michigan running back. I don't know how many people were watching that game, but there was a similar, call on a 4th down where Michigan had earned a first down when they didn't earn it. They were an inch short. And I mean, the chains were out there. I can remember Steve Spurrier saying, look, there's, this. I'm holding my thumb and forefinger if you're listening on the radio and not watching on Facebook Live. It's this shy of a first down. It was an inch shy of a first down. No first down, says the official. I mean, it was as plain as the nose on the man's face, and he was still calling it, a first down and not short by an inch. And it was almost as if Jadeveon Clowney, because the famous play, the play he's most famous for, jarring the ball loose, the turnover. It was almost like Jadeveon was sort of like, hey, Coach Spurrier, don't worry. I got this one. Here, let me show you. And then he dislodges from the running back the ball and the helmet, and he recovers the fumble, and all is forgotten about what was one of the worst calls I've ever seen in football. That reminded me, that Cowboys-Raiders, and I mean, the man was short of the first down. We have full-time officials now, don't we? I mean, that was supposed to stop this sort of stuff. I just don't understand how you can interpret. I mean, this is just sheer stupidity. I guess you can't fix stupid. And you give me 2 + 2 = 5, and I know it's 4. It becomes disappointing in that situation. I can handle the good interpretation of a bad rule. All right, you change the rule later on. I can't handle you're short of the first down, be it by an index card, be it by an inch, be it by a foot, be it by a yard. By that time on 4th down, it is all the same. You're shy of the first. Turnover on downs. I think that the Raiders have far more of a complaint than the Steelers do. By the way, what is with Ben Roethlisberger throwing his coaches under the bus? I have been critical of Steelers coaches on here. Mike Tomlin, I've said it. I think his team, the Steelers, have, over the course of time, played to the level of his opponent. I grew up watching the Pittsburgh Steelers. I grew up with Terry Bradshaw and Joe Green and all that. I know that in the 70s, Chuck Noll's Steelers teams, during the height of their era, they were 50 up and 1 down. That's right, a 50 wins and 1 loss record in that great era of the 70s against teams with losing records. Yeah. And you say that's not surprising, but they always come to play. And all this, it's the NFL. It's any given Sunday. But the talent would always win out. The one exception, by the way, was in 1979, an 0-6 Bengals team, which I believe was going to go 4-12, and this was probably the first indication that the Bengals were going to be good in the 80s, and believe it or not, they were. But Ken Anderson, the quarterback, and I think Terry Bradshaw threw a ton of interceptions. I'm talking about 1979 for crying out loud. Let's get off of that. And that was the only time the Steelers lost. Look it up, 1979 to the Bengals, okay, to a team that finished with a losing record. I just, as I know as soon as I say 50-1, what was that? One loss, Marky? Okay, there you go. The modern-day Steelers, it seems, like to be cat and mouse a lot. They, last-second field goal against the Packers without Aaron Rodgers. Last-second field goal to the Colts without anybody. I'm sorry, Frank Gore. The Baltimore Ravens, and admittedly I don't think a 1-point victory against the Baltimore Ravens is anything to complain about, even at home. But yeah, there was this 39-38, we had to come back the way that we did sort of thing, that the Steelers could be looking insular at them at. Looking themselves at, I should say. I think it's pretty apparent, lost to the Bears because you were upset that Donald Trump had called you an SOB? I mean, come on! When he didn't really call you an SOB. Steelers have a tendency, even at 11-3, of playing to the level of their opponent. Though they did against New England. And no, I do not really think that it should have been a 40-point Steelers victory or something of that nature. But even as critical as I have been of the Steelers coaching, Ben, if you had spiked the ball, you kick the field goal. You're going for the victory in that situation. It's third down. You've got to run the play, not spike it. If you're that close, you go for the victory. Nobody said that you should throw into triple coverage, Ben. It was real good at threading the needle, but you can probably get away with that against whoever, Tennessee. You can't get away with that against the Patriots. I don't think it's the end of the world or the end-all, be-all in the AFC race. The Patriots were obviously able to handle being yelled at in that game. I have seen no reason why the Steelers would not be able to handle being yelled at on the road in the playoffs in Foxborough. I don't think getting yelled at was the difference of 19 points last year in the AFC title game. However, I do think that, no Antonio Brown, no Ryan Shazier. Things could get a little dicey there in Pittsburgh. I'm wondering if Jacksonville isn't the dark horse team. They beat the Steelers earlier by 3 touchdowns. I'm wondering if they're not the dark horse team in the AFC. Steelers play Houston, then they play Cleveland. Had the Steelers won this game, they basically, although it wouldn't have been official, but they pretty much, victory against Houston next week on Christmas, they would have had home field. I wondered, in fact, if that would have been, because you play your second stringers, chance for the Browns to not go 0-16. I mean, that would certainly be their Super Bowl. To beat the Steelers, even a team of second stringers in the last game of the year. And they nearly did it last year, by the way, against Landry Jones. That took the Steelers in overtime to win the ball game. You tell me. That could have happened. That's not so likely. So, usually Cleveland Brown, I don't know, there may be some idea Cleveland Brown fans have been sort of like, I know that last year when they actually did win a game, there was actually, it would have been a historical note to have been 0-16, but I know that there's also going to be the fans that they don't want any part of that, and, a victory against the Steelers is a victory against the Steelers for the Cleveland Browns. You know, that's their. You wonder if it became in the rare circumstance where, because of that circumstance, where now the Steelers will likely have something to play for last game of the year instead of not, that Browns fans may have actually rooted for Pittsburgh. That would have been one of the few times that would have ever happened, was yesterday. Let's point that out, too. Another thing, though, I was talking about, and I do want to make this final note about those games last night, or last afternoon, I should say, in the case of the Steelers and Patriots. There was a lot of talk on, could the Steelers play man against the Patriots? Obviously, they can't. How was Gronkowski so open? How did he catch the 2-point conversion? This was a criticism, and it is a criticism. I mean, Cody Sensabaugh's in the defensive backfield. That's something they're going to have to shore up if the Steelers are to be a Super Bowl team. It's wide open now, folks. It's absolutely wide open. I thought a couple of weeks ago whoever came out of the NFC would be the winner. That may still be the case, but the Rams dominating the Seahawks of this generation are going to be looked upon, I think, as an underachieving team. And I know that they will have the one Super Bowl, but it'll be like, that's all you got? The one Super Bowl? You know, they will be looked upon, I think, historically as an underachieving team. And yesterday's game to the Rams proves that. The Rams now, what with the Eagles down to their backup quarterback and Nick Foles, the Rams are kind of looking like this upstart team that could be the Super Bowl participant from the NFC. I still think there are only 3 real good teams in the AFC. And those are the Pats, the Steelers, and the Jaguars. I think that they've gotten into the mix. So that champion will come from there. NFC I see is wide open. I can see a wild card team making it. I couldn't see it if it's, you know, the Cowboys sneaking in or something. But they get Zeke Elliott back. So we shall see. We'll have the season finale on December 31st here on 1420 NBC Sports Radio Tri-Cities between the Cowboys and the Eagles. And we hope you'll tune in. By the way, the final note that I would mention, the lack of complaint that Steelers and Patriots were on locally instead of Titans and 49ers. And by the way, now that Jimmy Garoppolo is winning with the 49ers, that Colin Kaepernick should play for me talk. I mean, only P. Diddy is talking about it here. And even Kaepernick is saying, I want to be part of the ownership group. Does he really have that much money? I mean, I know he was multi-millionaire and all that, and he has this, but, you know, there's $1 billion industry. I mean, how much money is he going to be able to put up into such an ownership group? Is it going to be, 1%? How's he going to do that? That's what I want to know. Anyway, I just look at this and I say, man alive, I just don't know what, in the NFC, the NFC is wide open, but the Steelers do tend to have the appearance of a team that's dropping like a brook, and also they tend to look like Tennessee against Florida or the Volunteers against Alabama. That's the albatross. That's the team they can't beat. Heck, I've been to games, even in this era of 3-11 against the Patriots, where I have seen the Steelers win games. I've been in the stadium when they have defeated the Patriots. But boy, that was a long time ago. That was back in 2004. How's it going to happen now? Anyway, Tri-City Sports Now will come back. I want to give a shout out to some members of the local media. Tri-City Sports Now.
Holiday parties, celebrations. Let Happy Hour Tri-City Liquor be